Okay, we just had a very interesting interaction. Looks like my camera may have stopped recording. We might have missed recording what happened, which is a shame if we did, because it was certainly one of the most interesting little interactions I've had today. A woman came out of the church, an older woman, and she saw my picket signs in one in each hand.
Daylight saving time since here.
What? Actually, my late arrival has nothing to do with. I was up at 6 this morning. I just had other things to do. In fact, I protested in front of the Gazette before coming here. Just another protest against the Gazette's failure to report this story. So that's Mark Abley, Gazette religion columnist, and he was sort of like smarmily talking about daylight savings time ending, the clocks going forward. He was basically suggesting that I didn't show up this morning because of the clocks going forward last night, but that's not the case. I was up bright and early at 6 in the morning, and I just had other things to do and did them. And one of the other things I did was, most ironically, protest in front of the Gazette against the fact that the employer of Mark Abley has never properly reported, in fact never reported at all, about the specific issue that's on my picket signs, which is the fact that the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations in Boston chose to hire Stikeman Elliott Barristers and Solicitors litigation lawyer to falsely accuse me of the archaic crime of blasphemous libel in Bill Cosby-style legal bullying that seeks to cover up and hide the fact that certain Unitarian Universalist ministers are in fact guilty of engaging in what Stikeman Elliott litigation lawyer Major Cologne describes as such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. But anyway, getting back to this woman, she came and she stood right about on the other side of the handrail there and stared at my picket signs and read them. Unitarian Universalists misuse Canada's blasphemy law to cover up and deny pedophilia and rape. And she had this sort of like stunned, unbelieving look on her face. So I said to her, it's hard to believe, isn't it? And she said, I don't believe it. And, as I said earlier, she has a right not to believe what's on my picket signs immediate. But she shouldn't be in total denial either. In other words, she should be open to believing what it says on the picket signs, once she's been presented with evidence that supports what's on the picket signs. So I explained to her, or tried to explain to her, what had actually happened, how I'd been served with a arrogant and aggressive cease and desist demand letter, accusing me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel for allegedly making unfounded and vicious allegations about Unitarian Universalist ministers. And she said, I'm not following you, which I thought, maybe because it's a little complicated. It's not really that complicated, but it's certainly somewhat detailed. But no, she basically meant that she wasn't interested in knowing anymore. She even went on to say something that made it clear that she didn't want to know. And so it was at that point where I said, well, see, that's part of the problem, is that the members of the church don't want to know. They don't want to know about this stuff. They don't want to deal with it. And so here we are with me protesting in front of the church. Anyway, the bus came along and she got on the bus, and that was the end of that. But it was just one of the most clear displays of Unitarian Universalist willful ignorance and psychological denial that I've seen in ages. Well, you know, other than John Inder's ludicrous denial and willful ignorance that we've recorded recently, but you know, in terms of an ordinary church member, not a leading church member, and I have to say she wasn't actually a member. She was someone who was considering joining the church. She said she wasn't a member yet when I asked her if she was a member. So it was clear that, you know, from saying I'm not a member yet, that she was actually considering joining the church. But she, you know, she basically made it very, very clear. It's like, I really don't want to know about this stuff. It's like, I don't want to know. And that is the problem. You know, Unitarian Universalists don't want to know about Unitarian Universalist clergy sexual misconduct, Unitarian Universalist cover-up and denial thereof. And so they're very prone to burying their heads in the sand, to be polite about it, because there's another way of saying that I could use. You know, they're very quick to turn a blind eye to anyone raising these issues. They're very quick to deny, ignore, and minimize the you know, extent and seriousness of clergy sexual misconduct within the Unitarian Universalist religious community. You know, it's really sad how this community has such a high level of willful ignorance and psychological denial, especially in light of the fact that the fourth principle of Unitarian Universalism calls for a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. You know, that should include a free and responsible search for the truth and meaning of what's written on my picket signs. That should include a free and responsible search for the truth and meaning, or dearth thereof, of what's written in the cease and desist demand letter that Stikeman Elliott had me served with, and so on and so forth. Yet these people are pathologically allergic to entering into a genuinely free and a genuinely responsible search for the truth and meaning of what's on my picket signs, or what's in my blog posts about Unitarian Universalist injustices, abuses, and hypocrisy. And not only that, but you know, the higher ups do their very best to bury the truth, to hide it, you know, to silence me one way or another. And again, you know, I really do hope that the camera did record at least the beginning of my conversation with this woman. I'm surprised that it didn't, because I thought I had enough time available that it would have covered it, but for some reason when I looked at my camera after the conversation, it was off. It may be that the battery temporarily died. It may be that I accidentally hit the record switch and switched off the video. I think we're wrapping up today's protest. It's been quite a fruitful one in terms of interactions with the public and various people coming out of the church. Has several interesting conversations, but I think we shall move on to other things. And I'm giving some consideration to bringing my picket signs to an International Women's Day event. But I haven't decided if I actually will yet. I'm going to have to give it a bit more thought. So we're just going to pack up here. I think we've had a very successful hour or more of protest. And we shall decide what to do next after verifying a few things. So that's it for now. It is Sunday, the 8th of March, 2015, International Women's Day, in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. And this International Women's Day protest has been dedicated to all of the women, to say nothing of girls, and to say nothing of male victims who are victims of clergy sexual misconduct committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers, Unitarian Universalist religious educators, and who are also victims of Unitarian Universalist negative responses to clergy sexual misconduct complaints. It's bad enough to be a victim of clergy sexual misconduct, but all too often the victims are re-victimized by the incredibly negligent, incredibly complicit, compassionless justice, lacking in justice. I was going to say justice-less. I don't know if that's a word, but for a religion that claims to believe in justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, there is pathetically little real justice for women and girls, to say nothing of men and boys, who are victims of Unitarian Universalist clergy sexual misconduct. On that note, we wrap up this video clip.